Welcome, everyone. I am Brad Gustafson, and this is the Innovators Mindset Podcast. And I am not.
Hey, you gotta have the. So you said that's a cue for the music. You were going. I loved it.
Man, I had it all planned. I was going to say I am not George Couros, but my hair's not bad. George, I've been looking forward to this conversation about your new book for a really long time. And the second I read it, I just wanted to talk about it. So thanks for letting me talk about it. But I also wanted other people to engage in the conversation, at the very least, be aware of this gem. Thank you.
Hey, listen, I want to make sure. First of all, you told me this earlier, and I really appreciate it. You didn't even read it. You want to talk about it. You read the title, and you want to talk about it. I remember that.
Well, that's so to back up a little bit. The second I read the title, so it's forward together, and I just want to point this out because I'm in love with that comma.
I love that.
I tell him every time I talk to him, there's a comma in between forward together, and there's something about that comma that I think adds extra meaning. It takes away. There's zero cliche in the book at all. It's very deep and authentic, and man, I wish you weren't here for this. It feels a little gushy, and I don't want it to be.
No, I want you to be gushy. You need to be.
Yeah,
gushy.
I want to like put you in the hot seat today. We're going to do that a little bit too, but it's this is good stuff. It's good work, George.
Hey, so Brad is the host, but obviously I hit record and all that stuff, but I do want to just make sure Brad gets special recognition. This is one of the, it was like interesting because I think I really try to live this book. Like, I think it's just me. And sometimes I do stuff and I'm like, oh, I'm doing the thing. I didn't realize it. So I sent out an email to all of the, my email list. And this is I think 40,000 people. And I said, hey, here are 3 covers. And I've told this before, but I think it's really important if you haven't heard this before. I put it out there knowing which cover I was going with, like 100%. This is the cover. I'm going with this one. The other 2, they're not happening, but everyone's going to agree with me. And I'm good. And then people feel like that voice, but they disagreed with me. And so everyone feels nice about it. So then I starts getting the feedback, and wow, I was like, oh no, everyone likes this one way better. Now, not everyone, right? There's probably 15% like the one that I chose, but it was overwhelming, the one. But the reason I'm bringing this up with Brad specifically, your feedback was so crucial, and you didn't just hey, I like number 2, so that's the one to pick. You're like, here's what I like, and here's why. Here's a couple things you need to consider. So the cover, I honestly, if I know you got the book, Brad, because I sent you a copy myself, and partly because how much I appreciate your leadership, but also your input on this. I love the cover, how it looks. I really love it, but I also love it because it symbolizes something to me. And I was like, oh wow, this is what I talked about in the book. And when I asked for that feedback, even though I was kind of convinced, I was open to having my mind changed, and it was totally changed. And now it just, every time I see it, I kind of I get a little giddy because of it. And I just want everyone to know how much support you had, because I got so much, and then as I was going, I'm like, hey, Brad, okay, you have really given a lot of feedback. What about this? What about this? And I know you have that great eye for detail. So I just want to make sure you publicly how much I appreciate you for doing that. That meant a lot.
Yeah, it's very cool. It looks good. It feels good. Can you give us a book talk? Whether it's a sentence or 30 seconds or a minute, but just give us the essence of the book for people who aren't familiar with it yet. Forward together.
Yeah, I think the big issue in education that we kind of know but aren't talking about is there's a lot of contentiousness, and it can be sometimes with your community, or it can be sometimes honestly with your staff, and it can be with initiatives. And we were talking about this prior, that 10 years from now, maybe everyone gets along in our communities, but you're always going to have people that are resistant to change. And I think a lot of it is just me kind of talking about what are the principles that you really hold to, and what are you trying to achieve, and how do you get there? And even when it's hard, what are some perspectives that will help you stick to those principles? And I think that's something that really, really matters to me. But a lot of it, and I think this is the overwhelming feedback, is meant to be make something really tough a tough conversation light, and a little bit of humorous and joke around. But a lot of the finger pointing, I would say 98% of the finger pointing is at myself. And like, here's what I used to do, and here's how it was actually pushing the people that I was trying to pull toward me, and actually doing the opposite of what I intended. So I think what I really try to do is kind of out myself in some of the practices, but then some of the great stuff that's already happening in schools, I try to shine that spotlight on others too. And, you can kind of see my own evolution through the process where, I don't just do boneheaded things the entire time, but I think, that is whatever it is in life. Are we actually, if we're trying to really bring ownership to it, are we actually bringing people together? Or are we actually, doing sides and like, hey, I'm going to stick with my side, you stay on your side. And that's, if we constantly spend our energy doing that, you'll never get anywhere.
Yeah, thanks, George. So one of the principles you alluded to just now is point at your.
I should have really prepped. I should have known you're going to just hammer me on this. You are like, know your stuff. Brad is the most detailed-oriented person I know.
I feel like the Starship Enterprise, but instead of screens and computers, it's like book pages and notes and stuff.
I gotta be ready.
That's how excited, and I don't do this for like.
It means a lot too, Brad.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about what you wrote, and I really think all educators, quite frankly, but certainly leaders, but really all educators will value it. And that's why I wanted to take the time and just have the conversation about it, because A, I wanted to talk about it, but B, this is really good stuff. So one of the principles is point at yourself first. Mm-hmm. And you do that really well throughout the book in a very organic way. And you just alluded to, a little bit of humor, but it does have a disarming effect. And very early on in the book, you talk about leading like with lead with a cold bath and a warm shower.
Yeah.
And I feel like you do that a little bit by saying, here's a mistake I made. Mm-hmm. Like maybe that's kind of the warm shower a teeny tiny bit, instead of just pointing the finger at everyone else in education. So can you talk just a little bit about this concept of
the cold bath, cold shower, warm bath, cold shower? That one. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think that's part of it too. And you and I have witnessed speakers and in education. And it's something I really pay attention to. And there's the warm bath, don't ever change. You're perfect just the way you are. And it's like, well, then why are you here? Just to tell me? Like, so I think, and then the cold shower is like, education's broken. Everything's wrong. Like, we got to rip everything down. It's horrible. There's nothing we can do. And there's kind of like these two opposing things. Whereas I think what I really try to do is really appreciate and affirm people. And that's the warm bath, but we can grow. And there's sometimes you got those little moments. And I think part of the process of maybe, I think it's, saying some of the things I messed up is you can't really say I'm a screw up because I already said it. So I beat you to the punch. So you can't be like, this guy doesn't know anything. I'm like, that's what I just told you. So, and so I think there's part of that in the book, and it is to kind of just, relax people, make them feel comfortable. And I think part of it is like, hey, there's already great things going on in schools. She was like a really great example. The book was inspired, by something I actually saw from a school. But there are some like, hey, here's like, have you ever done this yourself? Like, have you ever messed up? Like one of the cold shower moments is like, I talk about a situation where I really did something stupid online and, hurt someone who's actually become a good friend of mine, but, I didn't know at the time. And you kind of think like this guy. And then it's like, hey, if your worst 10 minutes were online, would you have a job? And no one's ever said, oh, totally. Like everyone's like, oh. So that is the like, holy cow. And so I think it is important to kind of work people up to that space because you do want to challenge them. You want people feeling challenged. I don't want someone reading this book and just like, oh, like I love when it's like, hey, there's a lot of stuff that really affirm me, but there's stuff I can do a little different. And that's where that combination, I think people will take different things like, hey, I do this thing great, but maybe not this thing. And someone will say, I actually do that thing great, but not this thing. And that is kind of the hope, that people grow from anything that you're doing. Because that's what it's what we expect from kids. I think that too. Kids want to feel valued, appreciated in school, but also if they didn't have to learn, then why even show up? So.
All right, so I want to go. If you read some of the reviews online, which everything I've read has been, people are raving, but some of them are also mentioning this concept of warm bath, cold
Yeah.
shower. Like it is people felt like he's pushing us here,
Yeah.
but also he's with us. And I can't really process it, but a quick side, I figured you would roll your eyes when I asked you this one, but I just indulge me, George. Elementary principle here. I want to play a quick game with you. Warm bath, cold shower.
Right.
Just when you're I'm going to give you three different scenarios, and I want to know what George authentically shows up: the warm
Sure.
bath George or the cold shower. So we're at your dinner table, and your kids are refusing to eat their vegetables. Are they
Cold
going to get a
shower.
warm?
Cold shower.
Okay, good. You're in an Uber.
Yeah.
Your favorite song comes on, and the driver turns it to something just horrendous. The music is now not on what you want to hear.
Warm bath. Warm bath.
Really, really.
Yep. Yep. I think, when you're in someone else's space, I think that,
Yeah.
I think you're in someone else's space, and that is, like when I know that this is not the game, but when you talk to my kids, one of the things like, when I'm really hard on them, because I am I actually think, a lot of teachers would really appreciate my parenting style because my kids are pretty polite, and there's a reason for that. But sometimes when I'm really hard on my kids, I'll say to them, why is that hard on you? Because he wants me to do the best I possibly can. And because he loves me. Right. And they know that. That is like something I have high expectations, as I do for other people, which is sometimes why. And I even say that one time. Sometimes you have to, I say this in the book, sometimes you have to share the hard things because you care. And if I didn't, that means I don't care. I will tell you a little secret about me. If I think you screw up and I don't say anything, it's not because I like you.
I think I appreciate that. I remember
that's what people know about me. That's what people know about me.
This was years ago. I don't even know if you'll remember it.
I remember it.
I'm going into ties to present, and you like, hey, what are you presenting on? And I tell you,
Brandon.
you're like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not. And I'm like, oh my gosh, so, and then it would have been fine had I just gone and presented, but you were nice enough to stay in the room.
Yep.
And so then you're in there. But I'm joking, but there is an appreciation. I love the fact that you do live this stuff out. So you don't just invite pushback, but you will invest in people and
Yep.
challenge their thinking. You'll show up curious, and you've done that for me. So that
I like it.
Be a good thing.
Anyone who knows Brad, and I think actually I said to you, I love the stuff for your school. I'm not a big fan of the term, right? And part of it is because and that's something I think I don't see you using it anymore. So maybe who knows?
Yeah, you were right. You were right, George.
There you go. But I will say this, like Brad is someone I would love my kids to go to his school, like which is why I gave you the feedback in the first place, right? Like I have, I think people who it's funny because you said something or as you're talking and I would never be rude to you. I'm looking up something I saw. This actually reminded me of you. Surround yourself with people who want more for you, not more from you. And that when you're saying about how much you appreciated the book, I was like, that was Brad. That's Brad. I just shared that today. Yeah.
That's cool. All right, last thing on the warm bath, cold shower thing. I was just gonna I was gonna ask you if someone's driving horribly in front of you, whether they're using their blinker or not. But I'll just go. We'll let your audience leave that to their imagination.
That would be my worst 10 minutes online.
Okay.
That would be
that would have been my silent guess.
A little side note: I did see this the other day. Someone said, I can't remember what it was mean. They said, my husband, when he encounters a bad driver, he doesn't like flip them bird. He gives them a thumbs down, and people get way. That was kind of funny. Because just like thumbs down.
That is funny.
Yeah.
All right. So here's a question. So in thinking about the concept of warm bath, cold shower as an approach, what's an example that you've actually done in a conversation with a staff, a colleague, or someone where you've used it? Just a practical example so educators can picture how does this even work?
Yeah, I think sometimes it is like we'll talk about the Jonathan Haidt book. Let's use this as one of the things that I think there's a lot of good stuff in there, but I also don't agree with everything because I think one of the ways we solve a lot of our issues is not by taking away from kids, but teaching kids, because eventually those kids grow up to be adults, and if you don't learn it, but but there is like I do challenge people with it, and the little warm bath is I show I show how his 4 norms, and one of them is like no social media, before 16, no phones, but one of them is that kids should have more independent responsibility, like independent play and responsibility. I say out of these 4, this is the one I 100% agree with. But listen, you don't need to agree with me. And then I say, but if you want to learn more, if you've never read this book, if you want to learn more, you can actually go on to Jonathan Haidt's Instagram, and you can sign up for his newsletter here to learn more about how you should be on social media. And you can sign up your friends who, so people are like, oh, I see what he's doing, right? And it's kind of using some humor, but then there is a little like, huh. And you're kind of like, you kind of are like pushing people, but I think it's also like, hey, I don't actually, and I think part of it too is, I don't necessarily agree with I agree with all of the issues he's saying. I don't necessarily agree with some of the solutions, but the one I talk about is like, I 100% agree with this. I actually think kids need more independent play. We grew up in a very different time where basically it'd be home before dark. And now it's like, kids have like pager, like are constantly monitored 24/7. And it's a very different time to grow up in. And is the world less safe, or are we more paranoid? And it's like, so I think it's like, hey, here's this really good thing I appreciate, but here's some things I want you to kind of think about. And so you're kind of getting people to kind of feel different emotions in that process. And it's one of the things I talk about in the book is the story arc, right? You want people to have like this up down. And because if it's just informational, it's flatline. And I did mention this in other podcasts. I had to reread the book like a million times. But I hadn't reread it for a while, and I did laugh out loud at my own joke. I said, "Do you know what's the other time there's a flat line is when you're dead?" I'm like, I did say that. What was going on that summer I wrote that book? So, but it is true, right? You want the emotional. You want people like kind of like, I don't know. Wait a minute, and you want this like you want the kind of back and forth, right? Because you want, and I think this is a big thing for me. I don't need you to agree with me. That's never been. I talk about explicitly, I'm not looking for debate. I'm looking for discussion. And that's all I want. It's not you're wrong, I'm right, or I'm wrong, you're right. It's like, we got to get into the messiness of all of this stuff and have conversations, because that's the only way we actually move forward. Because I'm not mention the Jonathan Haidt thing. I'm not a big fan of kids having phones all the time either. But I also think you got to teach them some stuff, because a lot of 18-year-olds are messing up really badly, and a lot of 38-year-olds are messing up badly. And I don't think it's a problem of over teaching. I think it's under teaching.
So one thing you do really well, and this connects to what you share, this book helps people, I think, live in the nuance of life. You don't say, this is how you need to think, or I agree, I believe in this, I don't believe in that. You share some principles that I can show up with to try to do my best thinking and leadership and teaching with those principles in mind. So can you just talk a little bit about what made you think to do it that way? Because it's actually a refreshing difference from a lot of what you'll, there's space to think critically and learn how to discuss. And that's not something that's happening everywhere. So what made you think to do that?
Well, one of the feedback I was getting with people that, I was asking as I was going through the book, like, hey, you really need to clearly articulate what your vision for education is. I'm like, actually, I don't. I don't want people knowing that. If they really want my vision for education, check out Innovator's Mindset. Like, that is where I really clear this. But that's not what I'm trying to do in this book. It is basically saying you have to stick to your principles and figure out your pathway forward, because I don't know your community. I don't know your context. I don't know where you're going. And I have no clue where you've been. So like, everyone's at a different place. And one of the things that, I think you might have mentioned it, but a lot of people really connected with, is the idea of the teacher paradox. And I talk to this about groups all the time, is that how do people decide if I'm a good speaker when I go to a conference? Does this person give me a bunch of things I could do the next day? Like, does this person give me practical ideas I can do the next day in my classroom? And I challenge people to say, I want you to really think about that. Do you know any group of people who want to be told exactly what to do the next day, who also hate being told what to do, other than people that involved in education? It's like, tell me what to do, but don't you dare tell me what to do. And that's never been my focus. It is like, you got to figure out your even innovator's mindset is the whole concept. Like when I talked about it, I'm going to share some ideas with you, but ultimately you got to figure out your path. You got to figure out what you're doing, because you got to, like, you're stuck with this too. If I can tell you how to be innovative in practice, it's not very innovative, because if I'm like, here are the 7 steps, it doesn't make any sense. So it's like, what are the conversations? And there is like a lot of times, even in the very first, in the introduction, I'm like, yeah, if you're debating what I'm saying right now, that's not the point of the book. It's about discussion. And you got to figure this out. Like I mentioned about, hey, what are the basics in education? This is a great conversation. I have my viewpoints, but I'm not going to share them with you, because it's more important you have the conversation than you hear what I think. Like, that you have the conversation community. And one of the, I read this today, as I'm kind of going through the Kindle version, that like a lot of people that say, cursive is something that's fundamental, can't get on Zoom. And so is using technology a basic, right? And then you have people making fun of like an older generation who don't know how to use technology, but that same older generation taught you how to use a spoon. So, if they taught you how to use a spoon, you aren't the brightest person ever either. So like it is the importance is less on what I think and more the conversation you're having with the people you are closest to.
So we're talking about George's new book, Forward Together, and I want to just build on that last concept, George. So for those who haven't read it yet, why not? Second thing is, you've divided it up. Part 1 is 6 principles, with helping people lead with like who they want to be and what they believe in. But then the second part is, I think, 6 more perspectives. And I thought it was really cool. The way that I've made sense of this is, I can carry the different principles into those perspectives. Scenarios isn't the right word. But it's like, it helps me see how the principles could apply, but then make my own path and maybe even carry different principles into different perspectives. So can you lend us any insights that you want to make sure we hit on the perspectives?
Yeah. And it's the perspectives is the sense that, so the principles are like the big ideas, like, hey, these are things that I think is really important that we hold true to. And like, for example, point at yourself first, like elevate others to see in your current, build community, right? These are really important concepts. Whatever book you're reading, whatever it is, if it's like four foundational elements of whatever, or 5 of this, 3 of this, whatever, anyone who writes a book and says, if you do these 4 things, they will work perfectly, is lying to you, right? That is the thing. They never work perfectly. There's always nuance. There's always things that go wrong, because those principles are basically the consistent thing. The variable is people, right? And how people react to stuff. So the perspectives are to say like, hey, when things go wrong, how do you take a step back to hold on to your principles? And really kind of like, hey, here's some stories that might, help you kind of get through some of the stuff. And you're seeing this a lot in the world today, because I look like, when it is hardest, that's when your principles matter the most. And I think that's why the perspectives are really crucial. It's like, hey, this is really hard. It's like, for example, point at yourself first. There's a lot of time I can just say, you did it wrong, you did this, and because of whatever frustrating thing. And it's like, hey, like, listen, you can do that, but that's not really helping you.
And that's our visceral response a lot of times as human. Like when I'm driving down the road and someone doesn't use their blinker or slams on the brake, I'm not pointing at myself saying, Brad, you should increase your following distance. I'm mad at whatever they did. But the reality is, usually if I check myself first, there are some things I could that are helpful to think about. I do love I hesitate to point these out because I love them all, but like, somebody hates you, that perspective,
people love that one.
So helpful. I mean, honestly, trying to have this internal bar of, it's just not healthy or helpful to try to not have that happen in life. I mean, no one really relishes not being liked, but just giving yourself, like, if you're leading with principles in mind and you care about others, some people still are probably not going to be your biggest fans, and maybe that's okay.
Like even as like, you said this could relate to anybody. There's no way that when you're teaching, some kid didn't like you for whatever reason, right? And it depends on the age you're working with and whatever. And that's something that you have to get used to. I tell a story, basically, and I actually can remember the student's name, probably my first year teaching. I saw the teacher beside me. This is my first year. She had penguins with every kid's name. I'm like, oh, now I got to do something, because I don't want kids coming to my class and they see penguins. They're like, oh, this guy didn't do anything. So what I do is I actually put basketballs, because I love basketball, with every kid's name. So I thought they'd be so excited about it. And then you have a kid who walks in and is like, I hate sports and I'm stuck with this guy for a year, right? And, probably wasn't my biggest fan. Now, I can look back at that moment saying, I can say, like, this kid was so wrong, whatever, but did I actually put them in a situation where I thought I was doing something about them, but it was really about me? And I maybe didn't, and that's the point at yourself first, right? And so, like, some of that too, but there's sometimes with adults and there's sometimes with kids, you're not going to win people over. And where do we put our energy? And even if sometimes a relationship, and it's like, this is, I think, what Mike Kleba talked about this. Like, there's sometimes they'll never be on your side. And Mike Kleba said, like, this guy tells the truth. And I think people appreciate that I'm like, yeah, sometimes you'll never win people over. Some people will hate you because they think you're bad at your job. Some people will hate you because they think you're good at your job.
And what you just did, George, was beautiful. You just articulated why the book is called Forward Together, because you shared a really real perspective that not everyone's going to like you. Mm-hmm. But then you said we could let that be the end of the conversation. Yep. And not move forward together. Yep. Or we could go back to our principles, which you give us. And one of them is point at yourself. So yep. That was really cool. I love it. I got to ask, I have so many stories in this book I love, but I have to at least ask this one before we're done here. So you're at a speaking event and someone, I presume, stands up and says, my name is James, but my friends call me Rusty. Yeah. You have to call me James. And then he shares some pushback with you. George, I'm not going to give away the story because you tell it masterfully and it matters and it's poignant, but how do you choose a story like that? And then any inside nuggets you would want to share with listeners, potential readers on that one, people like me?
That one, that one's really sticking out to people, and I think it's a really powerful story. And you mentioned this person is pushing back on me. The reason the person is pushing back on me is because I said, if anyone wants to challenge me, you have to do it in the room. And I want you to challenge me. And one rule for this, you cannot challenge me at the end of the day in the parking lot with your friends, because don't be a parking lot parent, do it in the room, tell me what's going on. And people are actually like, it's funny because when I do this and, I'm very blessed to be able to travel and work with schools all over the world. Brad, when I see people's eyes, when I say this, they're like, huh, like that's different. They're not used to it. They're not used to someone coming up there. And I like default right away. Listen, I'm not the expert. I'm just someone sharing ideas with you. The expert's sitting beside you. And so if I really believe that, then you should push back on my ideas if you don't agree with them. What I do know, and I experience this as someone sitting in those sessions, a lot of the pushback comes after. So you're going to get it anyway. But I would rather be in a place where I can address it rather than there's nothing to do. And sometimes that little pushback that one person has, they go in the parking lot, they share it with their buddies, then the pushback becomes a big thing. Now it's a whole thing. Let's just deal with it here with the understanding I could be wrong. Like, I'm not trying to get you to push back because I'm going to push back on you, but it's like really listening to people and understanding, okay, like maybe I missed something. Maybe I said it wrong. And there's like instances where I talk about, here's this thing I said, someone pushed back on it, and I changed because that made sense, and I never saw their perspective. So I think that was, the part of the story. And the beautiful thing about that story is that person was very against what I was saying and totally was like, huh, I never thought of it that way, and then saw himself as being really crucial. And it was just because I listened and took in his feedback, and then he saw himself as really important in helping people move forward. And that that's what I love about that story. He was going to say it anyway. I just gave him the opportunity to say it to me instead of outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I read the book, George, and there were some things I immediately started thinking about and practicing. One of them is, and I forget how you worded it in the book, better than probably I've been practicing it, but it's something like every once in a while, starting what you're about to share with, this is how I'm seeing it. I've been wrong
Yep.
before, and
Yep.
I might
Yep.
be now, but that's helped me so much, George. It's not like self-demeaning or whatever the word is. It's just like honestly acknowledging, let's have a discussion. Here's my perspective now. I'm curious and I'm thinking this right now.
Yeah. Well, that's like, and there's a part in it that I talk about, and I think it's really important. Is I talk about the spectrum of insecurity, confidence, and arrogance. Insecurity, bad leadership comes out of that because you are very uncomfortable that you are not good at your job. Arrogance is I am better than everyone else. And that's the opposite end. Confidence is understanding, look, I'm pretty good at what I do, but it doesn't mean I can't get better. And so that's where, when I get that pushback, I'm never offended by it because I'm like, hey, like I'm asking everyone to get better here. I have no problem you pushing me back because I want to get better. Like I thrive off of it. And I think that's something that's really important as an educator, and being comfortable, like standing up in front of me, like, oh yeah, I totally messed that up. And there is a little, sometimes I'm like, am I confident or am I just want to have control of the situation? Because if I say it, then you can't. Like I've taken away that power from you because, oh, you were wrong. Yeah, I just said I was wrong. I was the person who said that. So I think to me that that really resonates with people. And you know this as a principal, you do some great stuff. People appreciative of it. When you like, oh, did I mess this up? It's like people like, kind of like him a little bit more. It's like a weird thing. I don't know. You just maybe a little bit more authentic. A lot of people, see their administrators as, they're perfect. They never screw up. They got all the answers and stuff like that. But when you show a little vulnerability, they connect with you on a different level.
Yeah, I wonder if it has people psychologically listen different.
Mm-hmm.
Like just by starting with that it's not about who's right or who's wrong. It's here we are having this discussion. I don't know.
Well, so I know this is a weird thing. Like I have an ego. Like I'm not going to lie to you. Like I want to do well. And what I realize is that how I do really well is I make sure the people I serve are really do great. And if they do great, I do well. So that still feeds my ego. Like I don't think that's a bad thing. I want to be very successful in the work that I do. But if you're in leadership, the way you are successful is you make everyone you serve be successful. So it's not like you can still have an ego and do well, right? It's not. That's where I don't. It's not connected to the arrogance. It's like I want to feed that ego. I want to do well. I want to, look back on my career and be proud of what I've done. And what I learned real quick, competition is if you're out there to crush other people. In education, you're not going to do well. But if you are there to like make everyone better because of you, you've done very well.
Well said. Last question I have, gotcha. And then I'll turn it over back to you, the driver's seat or whatever it's called. But so you have a wide range of listeners. Some probably are coming to this conversation hope-filled. Others may be feeling a little more cynical, and some just in between, or little of each every day. What would you say to everyone working in schools that you hope they remember from reading the book or even from this conversation?
I think that there's so many great things happening in schools right now. And I think there's a lot of frustration that we are spending so much time on arguing with people or having meetings about things that aren't really making a positive impact on kids. And sometimes it's because we're putting our insecurity or arrogance in the way. And I really believe there are more people who want to work with the communities, who see the value in the families and their teachers that want to do well. And I know that if that's where we spend our energy to really bring people together, I think that's where we do some amazing job. But if you're going to spend your energy doing something, I'd rather not do it fighting. I'd rather doing uplifting others. And so I think I just believe, that's what I believe. I think in education, and I share this, and I do believe this, that schools are not central to community. They are the community. And I grew up in that type of environment, and I've thrived because of it. And I just want that for every kid. And I think that's, and weirdly enough, I want it for every staff member too. I don't want that to be just a kid thing. I think that when we have visions and missions for our schools, the staff and the family should see themselves in that too. It's not, that's why I never use the term, we do this for students. I always say learners. And the reason is because we're all learners. And if I see myself in that vision, I want it to come true. So I think that to me is the biggest thing, is that spend your time bringing people together, and you will move so much better and faster through that process.
Awesome. Thanks, George. Well, for those, in case you forgot, we're talking today, and the conversation was on the new book that you should, what's the saying? Don't walk, run to your Amazon card or local bookseller. Forward Together. That's forward, comma, together, by George Couros. George, we published a book together. You published a book with me.
Yeah.
A couple books ago. So, it's probably important people know that, I think, but that's not why I'm here today. I wanted to have this conversation because the book had a profound impact on me. And I think it's one of those books that will continue to, one of those rare, there are some really timeless things in here that I really think will help people. So thanks for the opportunity to go a little deeper.
I just got to say, like, how much I respect you and appreciate you. And when you were like reading it and sending me texts, I'm like, oh my, I was so excited. And I was like already excited about the book. I'm very proud of Innovator's Mindset. I think if you read the two together, it's like, hey, here's a really great vision of where we could go in education. And here's the book on really how you bring people toward that together. And there's some stuff I talked about when I wrote it, but I really believe in this book because I really believe in schools, and I really believe in teachers. I really believe in families, and I just want to do better. And so just your excitement for it, it was weird because I was already excited, but I'm like, oh, Brad likes it. This is great. So, because I do really respect you. I know how important your community is. And you do a wonderful job. So thanks.
And George, that's part of why I wanted to talk. And it sounds maybe corny or cheesy. I'm literally still processing how I feel about this book. I'm just like, I just want to talk about it because it has that profound impact. And I don't know how else to say it to people. It's hard to explain, but once you read it, you'll know what I'm talking about. There's something that stirs in an exciting way. It ignites some things. But it's in a sticky way, not just like I actually don't have, I would have held the book up here, but I have it at home because I'm literally, It's not one of those shelf books. You know what I mean? It's a book you want to take with you and keep revisiting. So that was part of my driving force. Like, I actually think people are really going to want to not just read it once, but talk about it. So this was an attempt.
And I'm hoping more conversations come out of it too. Right. And I'm hoping people do book studies. I'm hoping, read it with school boards, read it with families. Because I think I think that we can all get better too. And, that is part of it too. But listen, I know you stayed late for me, man. And thank you so much for your support. Not only just like as you read it, but man, I almost wanted just to initial your name on the cover just because you gave me so much help. Seriously, dude.
I stayed to hear,
you gave
George,
me so much help.
Is that a guitar or a ukulele in the background?
Ukulele.
I stayed for the concert.
All right. Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening. Brad, thanks so much. You're the best. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.